But
Okay.
if I'm the Trump administration, right? What is my? It
Uh-huh.
sounds like what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get rid of dissenting voices. Okay, smart
For
dissenting
sure.
voices. But all that seems to be happening is that more people are noticing the atrocities that are going on, and it's just calling more attention to it. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blue Sedition Podcast. I'm Nate Brady alongside my co-host, this guy.
I am Mike Smith, everybody. Welcome to the podcast. Great to be here.
Is it
Excited to
great?
be here.
Are you all? You're excited? Always.
Not so much the country, just with the people on
Oh,
the
you didn't mean
podcast.
here.
No,
Yeah,
I definitely did
you
not mean
meant.
here.
Boy, I wonder the Google searches. I mean, I know what my own Google history looks like.
Yeah.
But just like how to obtain visa in Sweden, like I wonder. I just, I have to imagine. I know for myself, it's up 400%. I don't. I bet those types of Google searches have skyrocketed.
Yeah, like what does it take to immigrate to a different country?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
I think that. Go ahead.
it's easier for most other countries than it is in the United States. I'll tell you that. So hey, that's nice.
That's kind of interesting to find out. I don't know anything about immigration policies of other countries.
Yeah, there's a few countries that if you can show some lineage, like in your history, that you might be able to get permanent resident status pretty easily. And then there's some where obtaining a work visa is a lot easier than in the United States, and then you can convert that to permanent residence after so many years. Yeah, you can.
But if I do that,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
hypothetically,
Yes.
I go to
I know people who have
Iceland
done
or something.
this. Yeah.
I go to
Yep.
Sweden. I
Sweden
go to Italy, wherever.
I have friends in Sweden. Yeah.
I'm on a work visa. I'm there legally,
Mm-hmm.
and I post
Oh boy, here it comes.
something
I knew this was coming.
I just say something, for instance, where I
Yeah.
don't agree with the government
Sure.
in that way.
Are
they
you
gonna
going to
deport
an El
Salvador?
Salvadoran prison? Yeah. Okay. I knew that was coming. No, I think well, okay, let's be clear. I don't know that for sure. Okay. But it is my understanding it is not as bad as it is here right now. So
Seems
I guess
like a fair blanket statement on
Yeah.
just about anything.
Yeah, that is true. So maybe we should start with that.
Let's start with that.
Let's start with the DOJ refusing to follow a court order to return the wrongly deported Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia because
Vibes.
why? Vibes? Because why? Why can't they do it?
They don't have a good answer, honestly.
Okay.
I've been listening on Court Listener and just following along on what the actual filings are, and their position was basically one of, look, he's deported. Can we move on? He's deported.
Mm-hmm.
And the court's like, no, why can't you bring him back? And they're just like, we just can't. We just can't.
So
They don't have a good answer.
Trump met with President Bukake or whatever his name is.
That's his name.
I think I'm pretty sure it's President Bukake.
That's his name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of El Salvador, the self-proclaimed coolest dictator in the world. And of course,
With a name like Bukake, how could he not be?
Yeah, of course. And journalists were asking, hey, when are you going to return Abrego Garcia? Because, and then of course the immediate framing from Trump is, well, he's a terrorist. I mean, why? Well, you know what's going to happen. And then Stephen Miller gets up there, the alleged Nazi
Stephen Miller.
Stephen Miller. He gets up there and says, if we bring him home, we're just going to deport him again. Why do you want to keep doing that? And then of course they asked the El Salvadoran dictator, are you going to facilitate bringing, sending Abrego Garcia back to the U.S.? And he's like, no, why would I do that? He's a terrorist.
His positioning was just the same. Yeah, he was like, why would I try and smuggle a terrorist into the United States?
Yeah. So of course the
First
framing.
of all, no one has ever claimed he was a terrorist. They're just saying it tongue in cheek.
Well,
He has alleged in court that he was a terrorist.
So yes, that there. So we have the timeline here. Mike, you found this morning, a really great graphic. Let me give a shout out to the person who posted it. So this is Aaron Rachelin Melnick on Blue Sky, who posted this really cool graphic of the timeline. So let's start entry and early life. So Garcia flees El Salvador to the U.S. at 16 years of age. Okay, so he's been here for a long time. After an M18 gang members extorted his family, threatened to kill him and do bad things to his sisters if they didn't keep paying, which is this is a well-known thing that these gangs do, right?
Yeah,
you have to pay them for protection, and if you don't pay them, you lose that protection, both from them and other people in the area. So it's not good. So Kilmar is arrested, and so he's here for 8 years. Has no issues in the United States for 8 years until March 28th of 2019, where he's arrested outside of a Home Depot. Where I'm in California. This has happened, all over. It's a very common sight, or at least it used to be. You have you have people outside looking for work. And people, I will say that people who have done landscaping for me, I'm not checking their papers. They want to come give me a good deal. I'm going to pay them, and they do a great job. They
do an honest day's work. Exactly.
What do I care, right? So he's arrested for that. Fine. Okay. So because he's arrested for loitering outside of a Home Depot, just looking for work, well, obviously he's an MS-13 gang member, right? And I don't know the differences between M18, MS-13, but the favorite of the right is this MS-13 gang. Fine, okay,
right.
So the claim in 2019 is, he's a gang member, he's an MS-13 guy. We need to deport him, right? So let's continue the timeline here. So there's an investigation. Kilmar's lawyers reach out to the PD to investigate these claims. They find out that one, police did not even file an incident report about the arrest at Home Depot, and two, the detective that filled out the GFIS has been suspended for a quote unquote unknown reason. Interesting. Great. So later that year,
you know how you get suspended and nobody knows how or why.
I think we know why. August of 2019, at his final bond hearing, ICE declines to offer any evidence of gang membership because, of course, they don't have any. The IJ denies bond, finding that the GFIS is sufficient for whatever reason. And we have to. So let's stop right here and remind people, because this is going to be confusing for people, especially in the Abrego Garcia case, because they are hearing, oh no, an immigration judge has said it's okay to deport Abrego Garcia. We have to remind people that there is a huge difference between the immigration courts, the appellate courts, and these federal courts where your habeas hearings are held, etc. The immigration courts are a extension of the executive branch. They're actually not part of the judicial branch that holds the executive, accountable. So the immigration judges are often, they're hired by the executive branch and can be fired by the executive branch. So if they don't carry out, it's not a life role like it is in as a federal judge. If they don't do exactly what is expected of the executive branch, they're just going to lose their jobs.
If they don't hit their quota,
then
they're going to get shit canned.
So this idea that immigration judges are finding things like this GFIS as evidence of gang membership and approving deportation, that's actually, unfortunately, very, very normal. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and I just want to jump in there with saying it's more like, because it's under the purview of the executive, it's more like a court tribunal than it is an actual court case.
Right.
It's where
it's like traffic court, basically.
Yeah, it's traffic court. You're not going here to sit in front of a judge. You're here in front of paid for jurists who are, in many cases, given instructions on how to find before the case starts.
Right. Yeah. Exactly that. So obviously,
and again, our immigration system is this way by design. It's because they want it this way. They don't
right.
want it to be fair. They don't want you and me and anybody listening here to end up on a jury where we're trying to decide whether this person is in the United States lawfully and whether they have any evidence to deport him.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So the immigration judge, of course, as we've just alluded to, rules that Kilmar is ineligible for asylum because he filed the application too late. Of course, oh God. But the judge does grant withholding of removal, finding that it was more likely than not that he would be subject to persecution if he was deported to El Salvador, which is really interesting. So a removal order is issued, but with a restriction that one country he cannot be deported to is El Salvador. Okay.
Right. This is actually a common way that you handle asylum seeking people who you actually go through the process and you don't want them to have asylum in your country. So you try and relocate them to a different country where the asylum will still be sort of upheld, but not the country they're coming from, obviously, because that's we saw that a lot with Cuba, where we refused to take in this is during the Chavez regime and stuff, where we refused to take in Cuban asylum seekers, but we would send them to various South American countries as a proxy asylum holding.
Right. So
they're like, don't send them back to where the gang violence was.
Right.
But you can deport them elsewhere.
Okay. So we'll move on to the Board of Immigration decision. So in December of 2019, Kilmar appeals the bond decision to the Board of Immigration Appeals. The appeals board declines to find clear error in the immigration judge's decision to rely on the GFI document. However, he is released anyway because he had won the withholding of removal. So great, he kind of escapes deportation here. I mean, there wasn't any clear ruling. Like it basically, if the government worked perfectly, which thankfully sometimes it does not, the judge basically said, yes, he should be deported, but just somewhere other than El Salvador. And then there were some appeals, and then it was like, okay, the judge didn't make any error, but you had won the withholding of removal, so now you're kind of in this limbo state, and nobody enforces.
Yeah, basically, you were sitting there waiting for the government to decide. Notice the timeline too. It's 2019.
Yeah.
Toward the end of Trump's first term. Right. Is that right? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Not the end, but you know what I'm saying.
It's close. It's close.
So, actually, December, yeah, that's a month away, right? Because in the January 2020 would be
2021 is the So
anyway, but he has more pressing matters. He hadn't been going hard and fast.
He hadn't been disappearing too many people yet, right? That wasn't a big
and
thing.
So it's understandable in this kind of case where it's basically like, okay, government, you can deport him, but not to El Salvador. Figure it out. And the government's like, well, where do we send him? And then nobody answers. They're like, you know what? I'm busy. I'm gonna go work on this other thing.
Right. So 2019 to 2025 now, this is the next part of this graphic, is Kilmar lives just a normal life in Maryland with his U.S. citizen wife. They are married. He is married to a U.S. citizen. They have a biological son and 2 stepchildren. He has a work permit. He's a job as a sheet metal worker. He's in a union. He's raising a family in a DC suburb. This guy is doing literally everything right. And of course, remember, we're talking about bringing like steel manufacturing and stuff back to the United States. These are the type of people that you need in the country doing those jobs, right? Okay. He's not in any trouble, obviously, because he's here for 6 years, flying under the radar, not doing anything wrong. He doesn't get into any trouble. And then suddenly, Trump's back in office on March 12th, 2025. ICE comes to his home, arrests him in front of his children. He's then transferred to Texas, where thanks to a quote-unquote administrative error, he is put on a plane to El Salvador and sent to the torture camps in El Salvador.
The gulag.
So that's the timeline. And that brings us to where we are now. I think actually in exactly 2 minutes from when we're recording this podcast, we
may have some updating news.
Yeah, we're keeping an eye on it as we're gonna be talking about other things for the next hour. But there is another federal hearing regarding this. So we'll share some updates as they come in. Of course,
some live updates start just saying that they're being ushered in, so they're gonna start the hearing soon, it seems.
Okay, great. I'm sure the government will have no additional information to file. They'll probably piggyback off what Trump said in the Oval Office with his meeting with vacate, who I'm going to keep calling him that.
Yeah, they have no information. If they had any information and they wanted to make this a court case about the facts, they wanted to say, actually, he is a gang member or affiliate or whatever, and we want to deport him and we have just cause for that. Here's the evidence we have. Then they could have gotten this thrown out a week ago.
Right.
As soon as it showed up, they were like, here's our, because what national security implications are there by saying this guy's a terrorist and we're not going to show you evidence versus this guy's a terrorist and we're going to show you evidence?
Right.
Are they planning something that's going to happen soon that like they need to know about?
Don't give them any idea. They're not smart enough to come up with that on their own. So don't put that out don't give them any ideas. Okay. No. But I want to talk for a second about what actually is the best case scenario here. Like if we're being realistic, I think the best case scenario, well, first of all, is that Abrego is still alive, which, I don't think even his lawyers have gotten proof of life yet. Just, oh, sure, he's alive from the administration.
Right. Yeah, you have no assurances. Nobody is taking any pictures of anybody. I'm sure that you're not afforded the same facilities and or faculties as you would if you were in, like, say, a prison system in the United States where you get some amount to like make phone calls with your family or write letters or any of these things.
Right.
This is a foreign gulag that we know nothing about.
Right.
And they're sending people there without due process. And so, we do have to wonder, like, well, what happens if you accidentally send an American there? This guy appeared to have done no wrong, and you guys don't seem to care about it. If you send an American there, will you care?
Right.
Or are you just going to leave them in the gulag to die? And I have a follow-up question to that I think is even more pressing. They have broken no laws. Why are we deporting them to a country and then they go into a prison?
the maximum, like with other gang members, with
Let's put this into different terms. Let's say that you're the UK. Right. Mm-hmm. And you want to deport an American to America because you're like, they're here illegally. We're deported.
Sure.
And you send them back to America. Do they go to prison in America, or do we just let them out? Because we're like, we haven't broken any laws. So, okay. Because I don't see how we're okay with, we're going to put them in prison if it's another country. And you go, but why prison? They've broken no laws.
Yeah. Like, okay.
You're just imprisoning people. Why?
Well, the argument of, I will just play devil's advocate here and give you the argument from the Trump administration is that, well, they've broken a major law and sneaking into the United States illegally, right? So that in the Trump administration's eyes makes them an illegal criminal, when we know it's a civil matter. They're like, if we send them back home, they're just a city. Okay,
jailing is not the answer here.
Like if you overstay your visa, or let's say you're here on a trip, you have 7 days and your flight is delayed, and then you're here an extra day and you're grabbing coffee at the Starbucks at the outside the airport before you come back in to catch your flight back to Brazil or wherever you're from.
Right,
does that mean that if we catch you and we arrest you, that now you're going to go back to Brazil and it's a life sentence?
That's what I'm asking, right? Like, there's been a couple of cases where the stupid Trump administration and ICE officials have. Yeah, I'm sorry. But right. They've detained illegally, it seems, like grad students who are here on student visas, but they're planning to deport them in cases where they're not, like, they're deporting them to El Salvador. You're like, I'm not from there. Why are you sending me there? That's not how deportation should work. And they're like, oh, I can't hear you. You're on the plane headed to El Salvador, and we can't do anything about it now.
We're getting information in. By the way, if you don't follow Anna Bauer,
what are you doing?
She's fantastic.
What are you doing?
So we're getting information in here.
Follow our news list. We have a news sources list that we share on Blue Sky. We follow a lot of people like this that you could discover, and I think that it's worthwhile. Follow the news sources.
This news sources list,
and she's in it.
Yeah. We're probably, I think it might be good at some point to maybe separate this out into like a law, because like we have our news sources, which is journalists and independent journalists that we really like.
Yeah,
we're adding to that every day. I think maybe also create like a law, one where there's a bunch of this kind of stuff where it's either lawyers or reporters who are really deep in the law and have a good understanding of the law and are following those types of things. But anyway, the update here is that, of course, the government said, and this is exactly what I basically said Stephen Miller said earlier this week. They say, if he was presented at a port of entry in the U.S., if Abrego Garcia was presented, that DHS would remove him to a third country or terminate his withholding of removal because of his membership, of course, again, without any evidence, in MS-13, and remove him back to El Salvador. So it's like, okay, fine. What they're basically saying is, all right, courts, you want us to listen to you regarding this case? We're just going to restart the process all over again. Go ahead and present him to the U.S. Go ahead and bring him back home, and we're going to just deport him again. And we're going to start this process all over.
They should do that. Well, they should definitely do that, and then they should immediately, upon his, coming return, issue a court order staying that deportation following more.
Well, you hope
you're like, okay, we got him back, and now we're going to actually have the facts of it. Why do you think he's MS-13? Like,
squirtling.
Shouldn't be allowed to deport people for no reason. It is definitely contempt time.
I love this username. Squirtling asks, is it contempt time yet? And it is so far beyond contempt time. But we'll see. This was 10 minutes ago. I don't know if this was presented, before the hearing today that was supposed to start in just a few minutes. So we'll get more information on that as it comes in. Let's continue on to...
I was just going to say, it's interesting that the DHS would enter this into the docket as anything, because it's a hypothetical, which isn't usually something you would like put into a court.
It's so everybody. This whole thing is so stupid. I don't even know what to,
very slightly bizarre.
All right, let's go to our next story. This is something I think that I think Mike, you said you've wanted to do. Bomb Mexico. Is that something you've talked about on the podcast?
You would never have said that.
Okay.
I think that we talked about. Actually, I did call this. I think in December, where I was saying,
sounds right,
because we were talking about how he was going to actually win over public opinion on this immigration thing, which his admin is completely bungling right now outside of his MAGA folk.
Yeah,
and I had pointed out that the Alien Enemies Act really calls that you need to be at war with a country, not an ideology or a group that is unaffiliated with the running of a country. Like, you can't say, I'm going to war with MS-13, because no court will hold that up. They'll be like, that's not a sovereign nation. It doesn't apply. And so what I had speculated earlier, what appears to be something that he's toying with, is the idea of declaring war on Mexico in some fashion.
No, this wasn't. Okay, all right. Well, this is
if you're bombing Mexico, then you're declaring war on Mexico.
Okay, so though I agree, especially if you're doing it unilaterally, which is what this is, he is saying that he wants to go in to Mexico, and if Mexico isn't going to solve the gang problem, the drug problem, the whatever, that they're going to go in and drone strike these gangs, locate these people unilaterally. So without Mexico's help. I mean, that's me bombing in another. That's a declaration of war, right? I mean,
that's what I'm saying. Is that's him declaring war on Mexico, and he and his ilk will claim that they aren't, and any response to it from Mexico will be a declaration of war from Mexico, and then they can invoke the American Enemies Act,
right? Just
as well as just go to war with Mexico, which is something that he wants because he's deeply racist. Imagine the same story that we covered a few minutes ago, where we've deported a man who was lawfully seeking asylum in the United States without due process, and instead you replace the word deporting with drone strike, because that's what they're proposing here. We are not giving anybody any court cases or anything. We're just alleging that they're terrorists, and then we're going to drone strike them. Now, admittedly, we've been doing this for years in the Middle East, so I'm not saying one is worse than the other. This is always terrible.
Yeah.
But it should speak, as it hits closer to home, that you're bombing your neighbors and you're expecting everyone to take your word for it that you're getting the right people. And you're going to take the word of this admin over anything?
I mean, we know that Americans and their allies, like Israel, for example, is really good at bombing other areas and only getting exactly who they're targeting and not killing
surgical
tons of civilians, right?
Definitely not 50,000 children or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time before something like this does happen, and the United States is bombing American citizens in other countries. Like they're killing tourists.
Or in this country. Like, I don't understand the difference between this and then floating the same idea with like inner cities in New York and California or Los Angeles and saying they're MS-13, we had to demolish this building.
Yeah. Where your friends, your cousin, your whatever lives there.
Yeah. And then, you're going to war with the United States. The way we are the United States.
I mean,
good. I mean, I'm hoping that even in this, I don't think he has anybody that holds him back anymore, but I'm hoping somebody looked at him and they said, this is a really stupid idea.
I haven't heard, I'll at least say I haven't heard much about this beyond when he said it. Yeah.
This one spoken in anonymity.
Yeah. So that's
anonymity. Excuse me.
Anonymity. Yeah, you got it right. So yeah, I don't have much else to say about this. I'm just checking in, reading some notes here on the Garcia case to see if we have anything that we can talk about on this. And here we'll go back to Anna Bauer. She's got a thread happening now. So let's see. We're following along. The hearing is underway. Drew Ensign is here for the Justice Department. Let's see. The plaintiff has asked for additional relief. Discovery, request his return, etc. Plaintiff counsel says SCOTUS ruled that the government must facilitate his release. We know that from custody in El Salvador, but there's no evidence of anything the government has done to facilitate his return. The government routinely requests return of people wrongly removed, but no evidence that they've done that, plaintiff counsel says. Yeah, okay. So that's where we are right now. That was 42 seconds ago. So we were following it live.
They're doing the right thing, and at least plaintiffs doing the right thing and pointing out that the government is not acting in good faith in any of these ways. In fact, they filed a brief either late last night or early this morning. I don't really know the difference, saying like, well, the government's throwing their hands up going like, well, what can we do? How could we do anything? And then they filed a brief that just says, you could ask the El Salvadoran government to return him and see what happens. Offer up a plane and see if they'll be amicable to that. But you haven't even done that.
They haven't done that, but they can say, well, he was asked literally in the White House, and El Salvadoran president said no. He's not going to smuggle a terrorist back to the United States, even though the United States is asking for him back. So
that was a reporter.
Sure.
That wasn't the United States government asking that.
Okay, that's
if
fair.
The United States government makes an official request on paper signed by the president that says, can you return this person to us?
Right.
And what's he going to do? He's going to say no?
I mean, so I don't really understand the agreement even that the United States has with El Salvador for this, but you would think that it's a two-way agreement, right? That United States government is paying money to keep that prison open or help fund that prison. So there is obviously...
On the gulags.
And of course, Bukake and other officials in the United States are pretty close. Rubio has already been there several times. They've communicated. He's visiting the White House. They have a great relationship. So,
just great.
If you wanted that relationship to continue, if the U.S. government is asking you to return somebody that they sent there on upon error, you would better do it. Now, I would say, as a federal judge, if you cannot make this happen, then I have to underscore what would happen if an American citizen was accidentally sent there, and because you're showing that you cannot facilitate the return once they're out of your hands, then we have to terminate this whole relationship with El Salvador. I mean, that's what I want to see come out of these cases.
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously, this isn't an American run, institution. So what, like, it seems like we should have been talking about this much before it got underway, but it should have been, why do you think it's appropriate for El Salvador to jail people from America without due process? And probably should have stopped there.
Yeah.
Now that we're here, I have to admit, the government throwing their hands up and saying, well, what can you do? We are allowed to get to here is a dumb but effective argument. Right?
I mean,
I don't like to parallel it this way, but I'm thinking like, if my wife catches my son and he's like clearly eating like an ice cream or something he wasn't supposed to have, and then he responds, well, Dad told me I could do it. What do you want me to do now? I can't do anything about this. You know what I mean? Like, but in this case, I mean, unless the worst case scenario has happened, then we sort of expect that he's alive in this gulag and could be returned if anybody wanted that to happen. So where are you, government?
So there's so many people we have to talk about. Mahmoud Khalil, we have to talk about Rumesa. We have Kilmar to talk about. There's actually another, and there's several other people, right? But there's another kind of high profile case which I don't think we even had room to talk about today, but I want to bring it up anyway, is the and I'm gonna butcher his name because I've only kept reading it and I haven't heard it, but it's Mohsen Madawi, and that's the young kid who did the 60 Minutes interview. Was it last year or the year before? He's the kid that was the Palestinian student who I believe he co-founded or he founded like the Palestinian group at Columbia.
Right.
And he was arrested yesterday or the day before at his appointment to become an American citizen. At his appointment.
Actually, no, it wasn't that.
It wasn't?
No. So the story goes a little differently than that.
Okay.
He had been undergoing the process of immigrating legally and becoming an American citizen. And he got a call from DHS. And I don't know if he was led to believe, but he believed that this was going to be that meeting that you're talking about.
Okay.
And then when he got there, he was surprised to find out that he was going to be detained.
I see. So they
but
lured him. They lured him in.
I don't know if they catfished him. Yeah, I don't know if that was a lure or
if
he simply misunderstood it. But apparently, no, it was never. From the reporting I've seen, was that they didn't. He thought that, but it may have been mistaken that he thought that.
Wow.
Okay. I mean, I'm happy to be wrong on that.
Yeah. So he's a green card holder of 10 years. Now this article calls him a leader of the protests at Columbia last year, where students called for the school to divest from companies that benefit from Israel's policies in the occupied Palestinian territories. If you watched the 60 Minutes interview with him, I watched the 60 Minutes interview. He states, in fact, let me play it here. I don't think it's a long clip, so let me play it.
What was your initial reaction when you heard about the Hamas attack on October 7th?
I could not believe what my eyes were seeing, where I see Hamas members getting into settlements and so on. But also the first moment I saw that, I put my hand on my heart. And I started praying, knowing that there will be a huge level of revenge from the Israelis. And I was praying that this will not be the result, because it would be disastrous.
The night of the rally, I believe someone in the crowd said something very anti-Jewish, not just anti-Israeli, but anti-Jewish.
Yes, this was as a walkout on November 9th. And a person who is not affiliated with Colombia, we've never seen him, we don't know who is this guy, comes down the stairs yelling, "Death to Jews." I was shocked, and I walked directly to the person and I told him, "You don't represent us because this is not something that we agree with." And directly what I've done, I took the megaphone and I gave a speech and I said, "We here are conscious, educated students, and we know how to separate right from wrong. And what this guy has said is wrong. What this guy has said is clearly anti-Semitic against Jews."
And
I mean, that's the kind of people that we're deporting, and we're deporting them because of agitators, and we're calling these people. I mean, come on, it doesn't get.
Well, you heard it right here. Muslim Madawi is clearly anti-Semitic. That's the only takeaway from this video.
Right, obviously, right? Like, please don't kill innocent Palestinians. We're standing here with our Jewish brothers and sisters. We are coming together to find a way to stop the violence and
right in the right way. I mean,
in the right way,
on free speech and the right to gather in public in this way and protest what you perceive to be as societal wrongs. Right, that's the way to do it in a non-violent way, non-hate, non-violent, very easy.
Now, I just want to point out, speaking of non-violent, he stepped away from political activism in March of last year, in 2024, because he first was concerned. This is
the big Colombia protest.
No, that was just after, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. It was just after. And he stepped away and citing concerns about his immigration status, but also he's a practicing Buddhist. He's practicing. He emphasizes nonviolence and empathy. That's what he stands for. And he was the leader. I didn't know that. He's a practicing Buddhist. I mean, that doesn't get any more ridiculous than this. These are not the people.
They're like, first tenet is that of pacifism. You're like,
I mean,
okay, your guys' case here is really bad looking.
It doesn't get any. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out that further down in this article, it does seem to go into the notion of the trapping that you're talking about. So, maybe I did have that wrong. It was all coming in kind of scarce and early at the time, and I was watching video of him being arrested, and there was a lot of different stories going on. This Common Dream seems to think that he probably was sort of bait and switched into a trap.
Jeez, man, it's unbelievable.
They even go so far as to calling him being abducted, which I think is appropriate language here.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what these have been, is plainclothes abductions of people here legally.
You make a great point, and I want to call out basically every major newspaper, because of course they're being run by people who are sucking the teat of Donald Trump right now. But Common Dreams and places like this, they'll make the right headlines. But if you go to the New York Times or something like that, or WAPO, and you look at the headline, it's Trump administration cracks down on foreign students involved in whatever. It's not. No, they're being abducted.
Makes questionable arrest. Dubious legality, not sure, unclear, etc.
Yeah. I mean,
they just refuse to take a stance on anything that seems so blatant to your average person. I think that's really the takeaway here, is that they don't think much of their readers. But like, if you tell this story and you actually get someone who disagrees with us, say we get somebody who thinks that all of Palestine and all Palestinians are, Hamas adjacent and are either terrorists or near terrorists, and you show them this, you can see, you can hear, empathy and understanding and caring for other people.
Right.
And you can get people to understand this position of like, he was abducted by not police, but ICE agents who are not part of any government efficiency.
So, you know, it kind of begs the question of like, the end game here really doesn't make much sense to me, and as many things that the Trump administration does, right? But if I'm the Trump administration, right, what is my... It sounds like what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get rid of dissenting voices, okay? Smart dissenting voices. But all that seems to be happening is that more people are noticing the atrocities that are going on, and it's just calling more attention to it.
Yeah. And, you know, there's... Okay, I want to step aside for a second. We'll get to the end game in a minute, but I want to point out that you're right. And I think that in Republican-led executives before, they would have known beforehand, because they can see a few moves down the line, right? And they would say, can't really do it like this, because then people will point out all of the terrible things that I'm doing, and that will sway public interest against me on this particular issue. I will have done everything the wrong way, and so I simply won't do it. Trump's more problematic because he doesn't give a fuck what you think about him, and he's been very clear about that for the last N years.
Right.
So when you point out that he is abducting political dissenters who have committed no crimes, and he's deporting them to gulags run by foreign countries, by dictators, with no judicial remediation to that. Like, if he does something wrong, he's saying, I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep doing it. We've got a problem. We've got a constitutional crisis on our hands. It's not coming. It's here.
Yeah. I want people to stop saying, is this a constitutional crisis? Or what? I mean,
they keep towing the line.
Yeah, no,
they keep towing the line, especially the newspapers. The newspapers and online, and like you said, WAPO and that, they say, it could lead up to a potential constitutional crisis. It may in the future. You just keep watching. It might be a problem. But I'm sorry, friends. We're there. We are here right now. They are arguing, and we are reloading the feed right now in a court case where the Supreme Court has ordered the return of a person.
So I want to get back to that in 1 second, because there are happenings going on right now that we will talk about. This would have made for a great live show, everybody. Sorry about that. This is the recorded pod. We are talking about live shows coming soon. I just want to give one update on this case. The one that we're talking about right now with Madawi is the judge in Vermont issued a TRO saying that he can't be transferred out of state. He's got to stay in Vermont.
They've learned from the previous cases where they're like, oh, the ICE agents are going to act fast and loose because they know that if they can get them to Texas or Louisiana or wherever, that they can do whatever they want then, because they're going to get a judge down there to just not agree to a TRO. They don't have to do any due process, and they can kick them out. And then now we're arguing you don't even have to bring him back when the Supreme Court tells you unanimously that you must. Unbelievable.
So
I want to go back. I want to circle back to you. I want to talk about his end game.
Okay.
What is his end game? You sounded like you had a nugget in there that you had to.
Well, no, I mean, I think we know what it is, right? Because you're seeing it currently right now. How many protests are you seeing on college campuses right now? Not a lot.
I'm not seeing a lot.
It's getting pretty quiet out there. And now, not in a lot of other places. I mean, you saw the protests going on at Trump Tower a couple weeks ago. For Passover, you see Jewish people, basically saying, "Stop doing this in our name." Stop. They're protesting. But I think what their end game is to take these high-profile green card holders and hold them up and basically say, if you do this, if you dissent in any way, you are out of the United States. So keep your mouth shut. And I think we are seeing...
And they've said this morning, at the very least, or they also said it in that meeting, because they didn't realize they had a hot mic between Trump and Bukaki.
Yeah.
That the quote, homegrowns are next.
Yeah.
And it's unclear to me from the context whether that means like children, or what they call the anchor babies in this case. Like, say say that one of these people was born here legally, but their parents came through asylum or what have you. So they're a naturalized American citizen. I expect that that's what he meant when he said, the homegrowns are next. But what if he meant us? Mike and Nate are saying these things. They're dissenting. They're getting too loud.
I do think that's what he means. I do. I think that yes, he'd be open to that. Absolutely.
Of course, he'd be open to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was hoping. I'm still hoping.
I mean, Mike, they're at your door right now.
On his racism more than anything, and I'm hoping that he's like, brown people born here, we're going to send them to El Salvador, and what are they going to do? Citizen or no? 14th Amendment or no? We can't do anything about it. They're in El Salvador now. That's what I was hoping for. Not that that's much better, but
wait, why are you hoping for that?
I'm hoping for none of this. Oh, okay. I'm hoping that something
confusing
happens. No, it's bad. It's not good.
It looks like the judge is getting a little pissed off. So I don't, again, I've always been reading from Anna, so I don't know how to pronounce the judge's name. I'm going to say Judge Zinnis, Xinis, Zinnis.
Sure.
The judge appears to be getting a little pissed off now. Judge says, have you done it? Meaning brought him back. If you haven't done it, speculative. And Ensign, who is arguing for the United States, says that if he presents at port of entry or embassy, he would be taken into U.S. custody. This is narrow issue of what facility means. And she says, no, enough. I disagree with what you think facilitate means, and I'm prepared to issue an order on what facilitate means. And it goes on.
This is so dumb. They're arguing semantics with a sitting federal judge, which is not a good place to be arguing your defense from. Like, I'm not a lawyer, and I know he's losing this case.
Yeah. If you guys were following this case yesterday, or the day before, all the days are kind of bleeding together now. Ensign and Zinnis seem to have a cordial, back and forth. It seemed to be respectful, which quite different than in some of the other cases that we're seeing so far, where the judges are coming out, or the federal judges are already pissed at the United States government lawyers. And this one seemed cordial yesterday, and in fact it was commented on that seemed very cordial. Now this judge is had enough, it looks like.
Yeah, I think correct me, Nate, if I'm wrong. I mean, like you said, there's so many of these that I'm following, but I think this is the one where Ensign came in and basically was sort of like apologetic at first, was like, I'm sorry, I don't have all the details, blah, blah, blah. And being very like forthcoming and like kind of in a dumb way. Like, I remember the Legal Eagle had said something about it in a tweet of like, if your defense attorney comes out and makes these, admissions on your behalf, you probably need a better defense attorney.
Yeah.
But they just left him in there, and here we are today.
But it was a lot of I'm sorry, they just haven't given me that information yet. I don't have that information. Right. And it did seem like, okay, we'll give you a little bit more time. We'll give you 5 p.m., 4 p.m.
Right.
today, whatever. But there was some arguing there about what facilitate means and whatever. And now today, forget it.
Yeah, I think, Judge Zinnis, I don't know how to pronounce it either, has sort of bent over backwards to give them more and more time to try and ascertain fact and try and, answer court orders at this point, because there's a difference between like, okay, we're acting on your court order in good faith, we're trying, and then you drag for a week, and then the court's like, why has this not happened? You come up with 1,000 excuses. They're usually like, okay, but keep going. Like, they're like, oh, we haven't done it. We just didn't do it. And they're like, why? It's a court order. Why haven't you done it? And they're like, well, we don't think that facilitate means what you think it means.
I mean, can you imagine
made that order? And I was like, I would have held him in contempt right then. I'd be like, go to the bailiff. Go to the bailiff.
Can you imagine going back to court for like a speeding ticket and just be like, well, speeding doesn't mean what you thought. I thought speeding meant like taking the drug speed while I was driving. It doesn't mean that. And the Supreme Court hasn't ruled on this. So I think that
I think that it's funny here in this follow-up, because Ensign mentions potentially appealing this this facilitate thing. And the judge just jumps in with, the Supreme Court has spoken. There is, in my view, nothing to appeal. You're like, what are you going to do? You got ruled against by the Supreme Court 9-0, and you're telling me you're going to try and appeal that to whom? It's the Supreme Court.
We've made clear court doesn't have authority to make the requests of executive. And Zinnis says, I'm not doing that. There's so much daylight between that and what's happening here. To talk in generalities is simply delaying the process we need to go through to determine whether you've done what you can in good faith to comply with the order. And man, this guy keeps disagreeing with this judge.
I mean, he has to now. He's in it.
Disagree that it's generalities. The plaintiffs have specifically asked court to compel the government to ask El Salvador for his release. And the judge says, I'm not even there yet. I'm not even talking about that yet. I'm talking about squarely what you're doing to fulfill the mandate that was issued, that you have to facilitate his return. So yeah, this is so aggravating.
If you were going to make this argument in good faith and you were going to say facilitate doesn't mean this, what you would do is you would fly a plane down there, you'd have it parked on the tarmac, or whatever, and you'd say, I have a plane in place. It's in good faith, and I have
the door is open.
What I can.
The door is
I've
open.
done what I can. Yeah, exactly. If you're going to make that dumb argument, you can have good faith showing.
And they're probably going to delay it to that.
They're not doing that because they don't want to do that.
Listen, I'm sorry, this is going to sound morbid and insensitive, but what are the odds that Garcia is even alive?
I don't know. That is morbid, and obviously none of us want to think about that.
But I mean, everybody's talking about. Everybody thinks it. We had a post that went viral the other day.
I know.
The most common comment underneath it is that it's very likely this guy's not even alive, and it seems to me like this is the delay tactic. This arguing back and forth, because what you said is true, right? Okay, we can just fly a plane down there and then say we facilitated. But what if we could delay even doing that? Okay, so let's delay that for a week.
We sent Marco Rubio. We can get a plane there. That's not fun.
Yeah. We sent the dog killer. We sent all of these people. So, but my point being, yes, we can do that. But if he's dead, for instance, okay,
right?
I don't want to get to that point yet. Let's see how long I can stretch arguing with a judge about what the word facilitate means. Then now I'll go to the step of let me park a plane out there and stretch that as long as I can take it. Then move to the next step. Meanwhile, months have gone by and we still don't know whether Garcia is alive, but that's because he might already be dead.
Yeah, I think that's why they're moving so hard on this one right now. I think that they're just trying to put light on.
Okay, if he's dead, what happens? Like right now we find out, that they have another case tomorrow. They want more evidence. We find out Garcia is dead tomorrow. What happens in the United States? What happens with this court? What do you think happens?
I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
I tell you what I would want to happen.
I don't think you can say it on YouTube.
I can. I think that the right thing to happen would just be mass protests. I think sending someone who is here legally by accident to a place, a murder camp in that case, right? If he was murdered there, then it's a murder camp.
Yeah.
Outside of U.S. jurisdiction and claiming you couldn't do anything about it, every American has to come to the streets and protest in Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles and New York and Houston and everywhere. You got to get out and you just got to make it clear that this is not something that we stand for as a people, as a society. Even if you don't believe these people are here legally and you don't think that they should be here, I think we can all agree on you shouldn't be sending them to death camps. Like, can I start making the true comparison there between Nazi Germany? Because that's what happened.
I think it's already. I think we're there.
They sent the Jews to Nazi death camps.
Yeah, I think it's already there. I mean,
that's the answer. I don't know what we're going to do, but that's the answer of what we should do.
I'll tell people listening that folks at the Blue Sedition podcast and my family will be there with you. We'll be reporting. We'll be marching.
We've marched before.
We've
By
marched
God, we'll do
before.
it again.
We've got pictures on. I just posted a picture on my Blue Sky a couple of days ago of an anniversary picture of when we were registering voters. We've been out there, and I got to tell you, I've been tired. But you can't get tired. You cannot get tired. Yeah, I mean, dude,
but I'll do it.
How can I say that I'm tired at 40 years old, 44 years old, when Senator Bernie Sanders is supposed to be on a 2-week vacation, which is definitely where all the other Dem senators are. But this guy is yelling at the top of his lungs every single night in a different place, in a different state, with AOC rallying
selling
people.
Their book, right?
Huh?
They're on their book tour. Right?
There's no book.
They're selling. They're not selling a book.
There's no book.
What are they doing?
They're getting people fired up, man. They're getting people fired up.
I love this pivot. I want to talk about Bernie some more. I know that you're going to argue with me, and that's why I love you. But I have seen more than one. I'll say 3. I'm going to call them news outlets. Why not? Suggesting that this is the front of the Bernie AOC 28 campaign. That's the ticket.
There is nothing I want more in my life for that to happen. And if Bernie has the same energy he has now in 3 years, then sure. Unstoppable in my opinion. I mean, literally,
especially if they're getting out this early.
Literally,
there was some polling that was done out of, it was a Democratic, a liberal like think tank, and they were said like, who has the most energy, of all the potential Democratic candidates. And Kamala Harris was like 57% of the answer, and then the next one was I don't even remember, but it was clearly like this is think tank nonsense. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I mean, none of these, like, where's Kamala right now? Kamala, I can never say her name right.
Yeah.
Where's she right now?
You know what? We don't have to say her name right.
I'm reading about her considering the nod for the California governor, which would make sense to me as a Californian and voter. Like, I think that's a good spot for her. She's certainly better than Newsom.
Listen,
but stay away from that presidential ticket.
It's like the only people more popular than Bernie Sanders and AOC right now for Democrats are either dead or already ran. So Bernie, Jimmy Carter and Barack Obama, right? And if you put a ticket with 2 of the top 5 most popular Democrats in Bernie Sanders and AOC, if that election happened tonight, it would be a landslide like you've never seen before in your life. Okay, that's a guarantee. That's
the Jeb Bush gift.
It would literally. I would literally bet my entire life on it. I would
put the nest egg on.
I'd move out of the country just so I could use that stupid gambling site. Whatever the begins with a P. You know which one I'm talking about. Polymarket. Thank you. I'd put it all. I'd bet it all because
bet it all.
No question. Yeah. So let me tell you, I won't argue with you. The only thing I am worried about is obviously his age. And I got nervous in 2020 when he was winning and he was leading all the polls and the Dems did that crap again. That, hey, maybe he's too old. But he proved me wrong. He was energetic. He was all of that. And he seems even more energetic now than when I saw him in 2016. I don't get it.
Yeah, he's definitely bringing that energy. And what I don't see, what I don't understand, maybe you can help me with this because you're more politically minded than I am in these ways. But it's April in 2025.
Yeah.
We're not even into a year away from the midterms yet.
We're not doing midterm campaigning really.
He and AOC are out there just packing stadiums, getting in front of major cities and drawing out 20,000 more people than they had expected over and over and over again for now over a week. And so what's the game plan if it's not I'm gearing up for an avalanche at the DNC in 27
in LA?
Right? That's got to be the play.
In LA, this past weekend,
Yes, sir.
there were more people that came out to see Bernie Sanders and AOC than were at Trump's inauguration. Okay? I mean,
right.
You're right. It's insane. So it's the Fight the Oligarchy tour. And it is going out there. It's raising awareness. It's getting people to organize, and it's working. We saw a couple of posts this morning I thought that were really funny. There was Popat tweeted about or posted about a woman who was at a jury and was being questioned and said, you know what, I don't think I right now I'm not in the right state of mind to make a fair judgment, because I just came from a Bernie rally and I am fired up right now. And that's, that's how I feel. So I totally get where she's coming. That's what I would say today if I were on a jury. It's like, if it were, for instance, if it were an immigration thing that I had to rule on, I'd be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
So I think that's what the goal is right now. I truly believe that his goal and AOC's goal is raising awareness. She's always been like that.
Okay.
When she was doing when she had just won her seat, she was still doing Twitch. She was still doing Insta Live stories. She was still interacting with people. She was still raising awareness. So that's just
and the like.
That's just their nature, right?
However, and one thing I'll say about them is that they unlike the traditional Democrat establishment are much more willing to have dissenting voices under the tent. And I've seen AOC do it live. I've seen Bernie do it live, where somebody asks him a hard question of like, I don't agree with you on blah, blah, blah.
No,
and then she'll say, okay.
Yeah.
They're like, don't boo.
Yeah.
Like, let's
come
in and talk to me.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what they get.
And let me tell you what,
compared to, and let me tell you, we agree on this. We agree.
I mean, remember the Fox News town hall that he did, where he had all the Fox News town hall like audience clapping and cheering because
they love it.
Because he's exactly what we're talking about the Democratic Party needing. The Democratic Party, the constituents no longer think they no longer think the working class no longer think that the Democratic Party represents them. Why do they think that? Because they don't represent them.
Yeah. All right. The other play.
Okay.
That I have heard floated.
Okay.
By one person.
I'm
not going to name them.
Okay.
Is that they're going to you're right. They're raising awareness. Mm-hmm. They're drumming up all of these big things, and payout is going to be announcing some candidates that are running in what they perceive to be weak seats as progressives.
Okay, so they absolutely have to do that. And I think they have even if that wasn't the goal, I think they see now with the momentum that they have that is their responsibility to do that.
And because we're seeing this more and more, we talked about it in the last episode about Kat, who's running for Illinois 18
Kat,
or 16.
I am never going to get your last name right without it pronounced right in front of Abduzagala. It's not in front of me. I think I got really close, Kat. I hope Kat's name is a household name soon, but
Abu Ghazala, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you got it, but okay. Yeah, and I'm sorry, she's running for Illinois 9.
Okay. Yeah, and we have somebody else on the list as well.
Yes, we do. And what I see is a lot of progressive voices from young people who realize and see the Democrat Party not speaking to normal people, regular, everyday people, and saying, I'm going to run a campaign and I'm going to start now, and I'm going to just be sort of loud and answer questions and be honest and truthful about everything, transparent about where the money goes and what it's for, and I'm going to tell you how I'm going to run it. And I think that they're going to have this sort of, I think maybe that Bernie and AOC are going to try and team up with these so that they get out in front of any other Democrat candidates who would otherwise have much more money, much more visibility. So I think that they're trying to get these candidates a loud, raucous introduction to the party. And I think that'd be great. Like I think if you can get more progressives in there.
Mike, let's make a promise to our listeners right now. You and I, in 2015, we were very, very politically active. And we were using our technical skills to build pretty cool websites internally for our team, to do some tracking, political tracking and stuff like that. So let's use some of that. I think the first thing that we should do is keep a list of our endorsements for the midterms on the website somewhere. So like right now we have Kat and I think Mike Sachs. And I think like let's start putting together a good area for people to check. And like maybe we can find a way to get like some of their feed up there or something. Like maybe we can find something cool to do for people. But we'll put up at least a list of our endorsements and make that a little bit of a thing.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Do it.
I can't get out there like Bernie. I know I'm 40 years younger. I can't go out rallying every night. But at least we can do some things behind the keyboard as the keyboard warrior that I am.
I looked it up. He'll be 87 years old in 2027.
Oh man.
So
really?
2028 with the inauguration in 9 and be 87, which is pretty old.
Yeah.
So it's seeming less likely now that I put it in that context.
Yeah, he's currently 83 right now, birthday in September.
Yes.
He'll be only be 80.
He looks good.
He'll only be 80. He'll only be 85 when he runs. You know, when he's like really making the push. I don't know, man. I can tell you right now, Bernie would win. He would have won, and he would have won.
Yeah.
But I think
I was
he would
surprised.
win.
I mean, because obviously I'm not surprised, but because of the shortened, I don't know what you want to call it, the commencement that Biden did, where he just gave it to Harris, and there wasn't really a conference or anything like that.
It wasn't a primary.
There was primary. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Then, I'm surprised Bernie wasn't a little louder, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
We're gonna get some progressive candidates out there. We're gonna get behind them and we're gonna bolster them. We're gonna get them to win.
All right.
That's what I think we're gonna do.
All right. I always love ending on the Bernie Sanders AOC talk. So it gets me
fired up for the next episode.
Yeah, and it gets me a little bit of hope. But we have unfortunately, when you think about it, we're only 3 months into this current administration, which is
I know. Yeah.
God damn.
The damage they've done is measurable, really.
So I mean, I think what we're gonna be talking about a lot after the midterms, when hopefully progressive Democrats show up big and we take back the House and we take the Senate, is we're gonna then be talking about the executive branch defying both Congress and the legislative branch.
You have to.
So, all right. This is a good spot to end it. Thank you everybody for listening. Please do us a favor, like, subscribe, share on Blue Sky. Follow us on Blue Sky if you're not already. We are blue-sedition.com at Blue Sky. That's also our website where you can get links to our other socials and our YouTube as well. Leave a comment below if there's something that you'd like us to talk about. Maybe it's Batar, that strange Israeli pro-Israel group that keeps calling for the arrest of peaceful Palestinians, or something else that you want us to bring up at one of our next episodes, or you have an idea for candidates, or you know about candidates that are coming up and
point us in their direction.
Yeah. Let us know, because we want to start vetting some of these people on our own. I will say we didn't get to talk about Josh Shapiro at all, and I feel very, very bad about what happened to Josh Shapiro and his family, about his house being set ablaze. I'm still not voting for Josh Shapiro for president. So let's we're not.
Yeah, let's get that out of the way.
Let's get that out of the way right now. That's a no from me, and let's work together to find a candidate that we're all gonna be able to back. So until next time, I'm Nate Brady.
I'm Mike Smith. Thanks, everybody.
We'll catch you later. Bye.